Hey, what's up everyone? Vanna Richards here from WRM Studio, and you all know me as the guy that does the Hanon tutorials on YouTube. Loving all the subscribers, that's really awesome, and I've noticed that there's a lot of comments about how to play Hanon, and then also if you go and have a look on the internet, you'll notice that there's so many questions whether is Hanon worth it at the end of the day. Well, I'm going to answer some of those questions that was very interesting in the comments, and then some of the questions I'll leave for a later time. But in order to provide a little bit of context, I'm going to give you some background, but let's delve into, is Hanon worth it? Early in the 1900s, there was this craze in developing different kind of exercises for the piano or for instruments. And there's a lot of speculations and there's a lot of books out there that gives a little bit of history and background on why all these exercises came out. Well, if you just prescribe a few exercises and everybody think, okay, well, I'm going to be able to play piano in 2 months, awesome, just do these exercises and you'll be on your way. So it was kind of part of this craze about trying to make easy money and just to teach much more easily as well. Now, if you have a look at the Hanon exercises, the sequences, it kind of reminds you of Bach. I mean, it feels in many ways that these exercises is basically a copy of some of Bach's work. So, you know, all you had to say was, okay, well, this is like playing Bach or preparing you to play Bach. And great, so if you do these, you'll be able to play Bach. Famous composers, why not? Let's drag them into this, and then, yes, everybody will try and do the exercises. Be that as it may, it might be a copy. It looks to me like it could be copied from some of Bach's work, yes. There's a lot of people that think that, okay, well, only uninformed teachers prescribe Hanon exercises. There's no real use in playing these exercises. Well, it goes both ways, actually. It's more of how you do it and for what reason you do it. But you have to kind of remember that it wasn't just uninformed teachers. I mean, there's sources that say that even famous composers kind of recommended playing Hanon exercises. I've read somewhere, whether it be true or not, that even Rachmaninoff at a stage prescribed these or said that it could be beneficial to students in order to improve technique. And in a way, with my teaching experience, I've been teaching basically my whole adult life, they do have some really good benefits, again, depending on how you use them. So what is the purpose of Hanon? Well, if you have a look at all the websites and everything that people say regarding Hanon, it has 3 main components. The first component would be to improve strength. Now, what is strength? You don't need to be strong in order to play piano. You don't have to have really strong fingers to be able to play piano well, but strength kind of refers to forearm strength, fingers, but finger strength not in the sense that, okay, I've got strong fingers, I'm going to really press down these keys really hard. No, it doesn't go about the strength of your fingers. I think strength refers to when we say that we improve the strength. It's more playing related in terms of playing effortlessly and playing relaxed at all time, having the stamina to be able to do that, having the precision to press down notes like a hammer each time with your fingers. I mean, we use our finger like a hammer, but not like a hammer. We don't use our forearm and our elbow joint and our shoulder in order to press things down. We all know that when we play piano, these things are still. The hand is just an extension of the arm, and the arm needs to be kind of weighted when we play. everything needs to be in absolute balance. So I think that's what they mean about improving strength when it comes to Hanon exercise. The second part is finger independence. Yes, having fingers work efficiently and having fingers work really individually, independent of each other, is extremely important in playing piano. Now, when we do scale passages, a lot of us, when we work with beginners, or even if you're a beginner, there's no independence of a finger. When one finger goes down, all of them goes down. We get these unwanted slurs, and the notes are kind of pressed at the same time. It takes quite a while to build up that finger independence. And even if you get into the more intermediate phase of playing, it does kind of help doing certain exercises that will increase that independence. And then finally, the third part, endurance. Well, yeah, if I have to play a lot of scale passages, if I have to play a lot of fast sections within my music, or even slow sections, but having a lot of control requires endurance. I mean, I always consider music to be a sport, piano playing a sport. I mean, you have to kind of compare it to a sport. You have to have endurance in order to push through, keep your focus going, etc. So Hanon could basically improve your endurance as well. Now, it is important when it comes to Hanon exercises, you have to kind of focus and make it a focus, basically. So you have to kind of make sure that when you play these exercises, you focus on your movements, your body, your posture. These things are quite important. Otherwise, not just Hanon exercises, but even basic scale playing, basic pieces, will kind of take on a different form within your playing, a different characteristic. If I don't sit correctly at the piano, even me, after years and years of playing, if I slouch or aren't sitting the correct length away, my length that I choose to sit in, where I'm the most comfortable, where I have the most reach, etc., I do kind of have control issues when I play. So we have to kind of focus on that when we play these exercises. And we have to focus on fingers individually. Now, this is a strange thing to say. How do I focus on a finger individually? It's just that precision when we press down. I'm not just going to start focus, and then when my first finger hits and the second finger hits, I just lose my focus, I just listen to what I do. No, I have to actively be aware of how I press down notes as I play. But as the most basic, even if you don't do these exercises correctly, even if you don't think that it's helping, it's still a good way to just have a good warm-up, getting the ears ready in order to play, or even just warming up your fingers in order to get yourself ready for your pieces or for anything new you want to try out on the keyboard. So if we have a look a little bit deeper into the benefits of Hanon, or what it can help, we should always know that it's not just a drill. You don't need to see this as just a drill of things to do, something that you kind of just start and then you don't pay any attention to it. I mean, when we play an instrument, we have to have thoughts in everything we do, even scale playing. If you do Trinity College exams or rock schools or Royal Schools exams, then you have to have thoughts with your playing of scales as well. I mean, that counts marks. And if you don't, if you just rush through your scales like it's a drill, you're not going to get full marks. You're not going to get those great marks. So it's the same with these type of exercises as well. You have to make it have purpose. Purpose. What do I want to achieve when I do this? And how you have to kind of think about how you're going to structure these exercises in order to help you get to that point. So what can Hanon help if we do it correctly? Well, if you do it in certain variations, it can improve legato playing. It can improve your mastering of voices in double voicing, meaning that if I play thirds and I want to emphasize the top note, then I'm going to kind of use these exercises in order to develop the strength in those top fingers in order to make the melody sing. It can also help with rotation. a rotation. Some of these exercises require us when we get to the top to rotate our wrist and our hand and our elbow, and everything down and up. These down and upward rotation in order to get that nice and smooth so that we don't have these unnecessary accents or these unnecessary bumps in our playing. But it can also help with octave playing. I mean, if we go delve deeper into the later exercises, there's a lot on how we approach octave playing. And we can also do all these exercises from exercise number 1, we can actually do in octaves as well. Getting that stretch so that I don't have to think of how far is an eighth stretch in order to do that efficiently. It can also improve speed. So if we start off slow and we have all the basics, we've got the foundation, everything is working individually and separately, and we get this smooth, even motion, then increasing the speed will actually help us to recognize these patterns when we play. That could help us improve speed in certain sections in pieces. But to me as well, when I prescribe it to some of my students, not all my students, I'm going to get to why I don't prescribe it to all my students, does help improve more accuracy on the position of fingers on the keyboard, so that you don't miss the interval of a fifth or the stretch of a sixth, or that movement that we have sometimes from a low register up to a high register. So there's a lot of different things that Hanon can be beneficial, or any other exercise for that matter. It's just how you give it purpose. That's the most important. Now, there's another benefit that I think, from my experience, can also help you or students out there. Well, and that's on a theoretical level. So if you think about it, there's not really much in terms of material, melodic material, harmonic material within these exercises, but it does kind of help with sight reading. There's a lot of patterns, sequences that if we do it enough, we'll actually start recognizing these scale-like passages. And that actually helps improve our sight reading, but it also helps us recognize certain patterns and sequences by doing something that is kind of easy. That is, if you're not a beginner. So for beginners, not that easy, and I do understand it. I mean, when you start off piano, you kind of focus only on the notes and where everything is. I mean, I have to remember this is A, this is B, this is C, that's a sharp, and then tomorrow when I start up again and I want to practice, then you kind of keep forgetting where everything is until a couple of months has passed, and with adequate playing and practicing, you start realizing, okay, well, this is it, until it becomes basically second nature. But we're going to get to who should be playing this and why. But it also helps us learn arpeggios, and it's a good way of getting the basics done for playing cadences. So a lot of the later exercises, you'll notice that when you get to the scale part, that there's some cadence progressions at the end of each scale, and this is actually great. Yes, some of the cadences are basically the same thing over and over again, but it helps your ear develop that sense of what is a cadence and where the music sounds a little bit more final, where music is open, and it helps you recognize these areas or sections at the or these endings of sections within music a lot more easier as well, which kind of helps with memorizing and getting to play pieces much better and much faster. So again, how are we going to practice Hanon? There is no one way, but it has to have purpose. As I said earlier, you have to kind of give these exercises a purpose. Am I struggling with legato? Yes. Okay, right. Usually I don't want to go through a piece, trying to learn a piece and trying to actually kind of learn legato on that piece, and then by the time I actually have the technique down, I'm so tired of this piece because I had to play it over and over and over again just to focus on the legato. I couldn't really enjoy the music. So I'm rather going to do an exercise or play scales and then give the scales, Hanon, also a little bit of purpose. So that when I get to pieces, I know how to actually implement that skill and technique without ruining my experience of that lovely piece I wanted to play. But we can actually approach Hanon exercises in numerous different ways. We can do it in phrases, we can do legato playing, we can do these exercises staccato, we can do different rhythms. So we can have a straight rhythm like the notes written, ta 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 ta, or we can have ta 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 ta, or we can have ta 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 ta. So there's different ways that we can actually structure these. We can even practice our triplets by playing these exercises. So again, giving it a focal point, giving it an intention, and then working on that particular technique by using these exercises. We can also use dynamics. We can play loudly, softly. We can play crescendo, decrescendo, getting louder, getting softer, going faster, going slower, ritenuto, accelerando. So there's a lot of different approaches that we can use in order to make these exercises a lot more helpful to us. Now we can also play in different keys. This was one of the questions that I've noticed on the comments. Actually, in fact, as far as I know, Hanon didn't intend us to play these exercises in many different keys, but who's to say that we can't transcribe it? Maybe transcribe it into F major, maybe transcribe it into G major. So work on your transcription or your transposing skills as well. I'm sure we can transpose it into C sharp major. I've tried playing it in C sharp and F sharp, and although it's unique, the finger positions, thumbs on the black keys and all the keys, but it does kind of help eliminate that fear of fingers kind of slipping, fingers that we feel we're not comfortable with playing on black keys. It does kind of help eliminate that fear, and it creates new hand positions, and especially it helps with playing on the higher keys, on the black keys, and then having to drop down. Those movements actually should belong within the fingers and not in the wrist. So a lot of us will play and then we will dip the moment we go down. But actually, it's not the intention to do that. We kind of just have to get the fingers extending a little bit further, and that can also help and be beneficial to that. So the most important question actually here, I've kind of left for last. Is Hanon good for beginners? I've noticed that a lot of you that watch my videos are probably beginners, and that's fine. But I would say no. I wouldn't prescribe it to young students, students that are just starting out. Maybe adults, yes, adult players that wants to work on technique, work on certain things, most definitely. But if and only if you've actually really experienced just your basics on the piano. So for example, I know where all the keys are, I know how the accidentals work, I know how to do basic sight reading, I know about different note values, I can implement it in basic sight reading. Then I would say, all right, okay, now you want to improve, you want to do a little bit more challenging work. Then I would say, yes, start implementing Hanon. But I wouldn't start up with it. I would just play music and enjoy it. I would grab Beethoven sonatas or Mozart sonatas, choose easy ones. And by the way, if you want to know which ones are easy enough to play, drop me a comment on this, and I would gladly tell you what I would recommend for the amount of time that you've actually been playing. The reason why I choose sonatas, when I was studying music, I didn't have formal training. I literally had grade 1, and I was going to do grade 3, and then life happened, and then I decided in any case, after studying engineering, I wanted to go and study music. So I applied by learning some pieces, and well, I got into the degree. But I was so far behind. I mean, everyone else was advanced. So I actually grabbed sonatas, and I improved my techniques by playing sonatas, by closing the gap faster, not by doing Hanon exercises or by focusing on scales, although there was plenty of scales to play, which I had to do. But the thing was, is to actually engage with the music. Engage for, why am I playing piano? I'm not playing piano because I want to do exercises. I'm playing piano because I want to get lost in the world of Beethoven, and I want to get lost in pop music, and that's why we do it. But eventually, I think here in my second year or so, my teacher told me at varsity, she told me that, okay, well, you might want to have a look at a Hanon exercise or two, just to help you get your strength and your flexibility and your independence. I mean, I had a lot of trouble with those things. And I did it, and it actually helped, but there was intention behind it. She showed me how to have intention when we do these exercises, so that we just don't play it. Again, seeing it as a drill versus having it being beneficial. In my teaching context, I think from all the students I've taught, I've only prescribed it for two students. And those two students were students that were extremely fast learners. I mean, I had a student now, he's doing his grade 8 this year, at the end of this year or next year. And he literally started piano 2 years ago with me. And we started at grade initial, and then we did grade 2, and then grade 5, and now grade 7, and then now we're going to do grade 8. And with the fact that we skipped a lot of grades, and we didn't just skip because, well, we wanted to get there quicker. It's just because he literally understood the work and were able to play these things a lot quicker. So to challenge him constantly actually helps progress him a little bit faster. And because we're doing this, we had these gaps in experience. And all these things you can do with just playing a lot of music and understanding what you play eventually, but it takes months, it takes years in order to get that. So I prescribe some Hanon exercises, especially for Bach and pieces that require an extreme steadiness in tempo and rhythm, and it actually helped. Another student of mine that finished grade 7 now, I also prescribed some Hanon exercises, especially when he was in grade 5, because he was playing some pieces that had very similar rhythms. And even though he got the rhythm right, there was always unevenness, especially in the pinky and the forefinger within these exercises, and he couldn't keep his hands still. So instead of constantly criticizing what he was doing wrong on the piece and trying to fix it there, because that kind of demotivates him to play the piece. Eventually they start thinking that this piece is too difficult for me, I want to change it. I said, well, let's have a look at Hanon. So I've isolated these exercises, or I've isolated the technique, and then I used Hanon in order to improve it. And then, whoop, applying it to the piece, much better. So in conclusion, yes, Hanon is awesome. Hanon can be very beneficial. But you can do the same without doing these exercises. Now, this is by no means a way for you guys to stop watching the videos. It's great. If it works for you, fantastic. If that's what you want to do. That's why I'm doing it. And I promise I will finish the whole book. We're getting into scales now. It's my least favorite part to do. So I have been procrastinating just a little bit. But I'm going to get to that pretty soon. But just so you know, by actually also immersing yourself in music, but it can also help you learn all these techniques and help you play a little bit better, understand music and how the body and the fingers work. But it can also be done, it's just going to take a little bit longer if we just focus on certain pieces. But again, the pieces should be right as well. No use we play slow music and music that only has chords and then expecting us to apply that technique that we've learned now or that experience onto something like a Bach fugue. Not going to happen. So there you have it in a very, very short and long nutshell. And to answer my question, is Hanon worth it? Yes. But let it have purpose. By the way, thanks so much. I'm nearing 10,000 subscribers. I'm super excited. It took like 10,000 years to get here. And I'm happy with the progress. I'm in no rush. I'm very, very grateful to be able to have a channel that has so many subscribers. And even if I get to help only one or two of you and make things a little bit interesting for one of two of you out there, then mission accomplished. So thanks a lot, and remember, if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, comment. I know I'm not the world's best answer of comments, but please be aware I am a teacher, 8 hours a day, 8 hours of a week. I've got family, I've got responsibilities as well. I've got photography on the side too, so this kind of is something I do for the love of it, and I don't always get to do what I love, unfortunately, but I'm hoping to change that. Hopefully when I reach that 10,000 milestone, things will start growing a little bit faster, and then obviously my focus will move a little bit more to content creation. But thanks so much again for supporting me and following me all this time. And please let me know if you want to see certain things. I'm going to try to make a lot of these videos in the future as well, with explanations on how to, and is something worth it, might just help you. Thanks so much for watching, and see you again soon.